I really enjoyed the talk because you talked about the analytics of the entire customer journey. From watching that video ad to maybe seeing a banner ad to visiting the website, opening an account, servicing the account, having a problem, getting the problem fixed, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And I think this is really where great people in roles like yours are making a lot of progress. So the one question I like to ask people who are sitting in your shoes is, which customer touch point do you most wish you had better data on? Like if you had $1 more to spend on instrumentation and data collection, where are you focusing right now?
So this might be a lead into someone who's speaking later, but we have a lot of sponsorships that we work through. So we've got like MSG, the Warriors, things like that. Uh-huh. And getting data that to better understand which fans are actually in seats and therefore are also seeing the impressions from our sponsorships is extremely important.
You'd like to know the names of the people in the seats so that you can
most venues do not have today.
Wow, that's an exciting opportunity. Maybe someone out there will start a business doing that.
I've thought about it.
All right, so one of the questions has 16 votes. So in the interest of fairness, I'll go with that one. Which data, this is actually the opposite question of the one I just asked you. What data sources or analytical tools have you deprioritized or chosen not to focus on? In other words, are there distractions that you're trying to get your team to ignore?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I think the way we operate, it's hard to get to that point because the way we set our strategy is we start at the beginning of the year and we talk to our CEOs and our senior executives. We understand business priorities. My view is that in analytics, it's very easy to get distracted by shiny objects, and it's really important not to. And the way to avoid that is to always ground yourselves in the priorities of what the objectives your businesses are trying to drive. So we start there, we understand what our businesses are trying to accomplish. We then work to translate that into what are the analytical or data tools that we need. And as we think thematically across our businesses, are there investments we need to make across that just turbocharge that? So it's you can get caught up in that, but if you always ground in your business partners, you avoid it. And that's why also as I think about what Dean Garrett said earlier about soft skills, it's also very important as analysts to have those soft skills because not all analysts have a seat at the table with their business partners. And so graduating to the point where you have the authority and the credibility to be able to walk into the CEO's office, understand what they need, and deliver is what helps with that alignment.
So following up on that, one of the questions here is, I am a Chase high net worth customer.
Excellent, thank you.
That's not the question, though. And now the question
better not be a
jumped.
Question.
Okay.
Yeah.
With all this customer knowledge, why do my online and statement interfaces look and perform only okay, exactly as they did 10 years ago?
So we are in the process of rolling out an entirely new Chase digital experience. You are probably one of the customers who has not been part of our wave of going out yet. So there are a couple million customers each month who are getting the new experience as we're constantly testing and improving it. And so you're probably on the way in the next couple months.
Great. So how far can you push this personalization idea until you've gone too far? It's just ineffective. Is there someone you wouldn't want to send a mug to because they're going to get angry?
Ooh, I don't know. I like free mugs. I don't know why anyone would get angry with a free mug. I think you have to be very, very careful with where you draw the line, I think, and that's where doing things in our own channels where customers know that it's us and they're coming to us, it's very different than being off us, and that's where social and even paid becomes, the line blurs a little bit, and we just have to be very careful. I think my boss always has this touchstone of we need to do what is right for the customer. If what is right for the customer is sending the mug, more so than respecting privacy of an unlinked account, we will do it, but pretty much we try to respect what we think our customers' wishes are. We're going to get to a point at some point as an industry where we also have a lot more preference centers, being able to understand what our customers truly care about. You know, some of them don't want to share location. We should be able to ask them, is that specifically what you don't want to share? If there's other things like social media handles, things like that, they should be able to tell us. We should be able to just respect their wishes.
Yeah, the example I always give with my students is, it doesn't bother you that your tailor knows your measurements, but if your bank knew your measurements, that might be very awkward. So, you have to make sure that the personalization you're doing is within the context of the business relationship you have with the customer. Which
I don't know what
I
I would
don't
do
mind
with
that
them.
my bank knows my net worth. I wouldn't want my tailor to know my net worth, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I would do with someone's measurements. I'm just thinking in my head, what
Yeah.
the use case for that is. It's
The use case for a
the
bank.
use
to
case
use
for
my
me to
measurements.
know your measurements. We do send sometimes sweatshirts
I'm
and
sure
things.
there is a vendor who will sell you data on my measurements.
Yeah, we might send you like a Rangers sweatshirt or something. Like that would be the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. Yeah, talking about backfiring, no.
So we're deprioritizing that use case.
Okay, good. All right, so turning to something maybe a little bit more practical. Can you talk a little bit about the size, structure, and skill sets on your team? Because you're doing massive amount of work on the data stack. Plus, someone has to look at that data stack and find the broken customer journeys, create these beautiful visualizations you showed us. There's a lot going on there. You want to tell us about the team?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of data architects who are actually working on the data stack. We've got a bunch of folks who are kind of hybrid between data architects and data scientists who do a lot of our data testing and validation because we're constantly looking at new sources of data and figuring out are they beneficial or not for us. We, of course, have lots of data scientists, but I'd say that we range from, a lot of people use the word data scientist and modeler interchangeably. I'd say that there's a range. We've got folks who are truly our core modelers focused on building predictive models. There are folks who can do that, but also are more, have business analytics skills and stakeholder management skills where we actually have them meeting with senior leaders to then define and then going and building things. We've got folks who are solely focused on marketing optimization, whether it's digital marketing analytics, social media analytics, media optimization, media mix attribution. That's a wholly different skill set. And then we've got folks who are also just more, again, strategic and business analytics focused, as we have some of the strategy projects that we do. And then cross-channel analytics is slightly different. There, it's a skill set that's a cross between business analytics and data visualization. And finally, we actually have, I forgot about that. He's going to kill me that I forgot about his team. Data visualization. So we actually have a dedicated team for that because it's extremely important. As you think about transitioning a team from being highly reactive to being strategic, you need to be able to still meet the needs of your executives with a lot of the basic reporting. And so having data visualization capabilities, being able to come up to market quickly with dashboards and things for executives makes it faster that we can transition to some of the meatier projects.
So sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, but if you think about, you named a bunch of different buckets there, but I'm going to just make up three. The people who are managing and architecting the data systems, the people who are doing sort of modeling or analysis, and then the people who are really connecting that to the business. What proportion would you say that just in headcount or dollars spent? Those are probably two very different numbers.
So I think about it less as the job families than as what are the central capabilities you need to build assets versus things that are dedicated to executives to continue to align to impact and to align to business strategy. And so I think you should always be heavier in your alignment to business strategy. And you always need a core that is building out these assets for innovation and forward thinking. When I think about those central assets, typically more of your data architects and your data visualization and the cross-channel stuff is in there. As you think about increasingly aligning to business impact, it's more about business analytical skills, stakeholder management, modeling, sit more towards the periphery, but that's just how I think about it.
So how do you communicate those innovations that maybe you have on the back burner, like multi-channel, I guess, would be one of them, because you put it in that innovation bucket. How do you communicate the benefits of going in that direction to the business leaders who are asking you for backward-looking reports, what happened last month?
Yeah, so that's the benefit of having people who are leading line of business analytics teams that are dedicated to executives and are highly engaged in the actual strategy. And so they're constantly at this business leaders table, and so they're able to connect what it is we're building centrally to what it is that this person actually needs and communicate it in a way that they see value based on the impact they're looking for. So it's not just us building something centrally that doesn't matter. We knew this problem existed. We're bringing it to the table to solve a problem they already had.
Oh, okay. Great.
is how we think about it. But again, that's why it's extremely important
Does
that
the leader ever move on before you get the solution built? The leader who had that problem? Because the next leader might not.
I'd say that we have to be very careful, and you always align yourself to strategic imperatives, not personal imperatives. And so when I look at our stakeholders, it's all about what the business needs. And 99.9% of the time, I'm lucky at my company, I've got really phenomenal colleagues. 99.9% of the time, those things are perfectly aligned.
Oh, good. All right. Let's see, what are some of the things on your wish list, things you would like to be able to do moving forward, going beyond this multi-channel analysis that you're doing?
Oh, that's a good one.
What's on your dream list for 10 years from now?
My dream list for 10 years from now is probably more innovation on how we think about frontline systems and interaction with the frontline. That's just something that is very hard.
What's the front line? Sorry, I'm not a banker.
So our sales force, our branches. Actually thinking about the folks in our branches who do the heavy lifting of the actual work of generating, customer experience day to day.
So do you track? You're doing a lot of work tracking customer journeys. Do you envision tracking employee journeys?
In certain cases, it makes sense. It's somewhat of employee or process journey. There are ways where if you track an employee or a process journey, you actually make the customer experience better. So those are things we're exploring.
Okay.
But it's more about what we do in branches and having a better sense of, in that retail footprint, what we're doing and connecting that back.
Okay, and connecting those to the online journey that's probably very well measured. So maybe that's the answer to the question of what touch point do you most wish you had better data on?
Yeah, but we don't need it right now. It's okay. We're
that's
good.
On the 10-year wish list.
It's on the 10-year wish list. That'll be like incremental later.
So a lot of people were really intrigued by your video, it sounds like.
Oh, good.
But they're all analytics people. So the question that people have is, could you talk a little bit more about how you approach media mix, especially the TV versus not TV question?
Yeah, so I think, and you and I talked about this before I came up. As we think about marketing optimization, we take both a bottom-up and a top-down approach, and we do a lot of experimentation. And so we don't just do media mix, we also do attribution, which kind of helps to validate some of the things we see from a media mix perspective, because I don't know if you guys know, attribution just touches your channels where you can directly attribute back to a customer. So things like direct mail and digital would all be things you can encompass, whereas media mix helps you overlay those intangibles or non-addressable channels like TV or print, or sponsorships for that matter. So we try to use the two to test each other, but we also do in-market testing to try to validate, at least from a univariate perspective, some of the things we're seeing from the models.
So you'll turn off TV ads in some cities, see what happens in those cities?
All three should be roughly similar if you look at them. You should be able to triangulate.
Oh, you mean to do the bottom-up attribution, the top-down media mix modeling, and then also some univariate testing in just go dark testing to see what happens when.
Exactly.
Does that all make sense, the go dark testing? I think that's a cool opportunity. I have a paper on that, so that just came out. Great. So on using go dark testing and mixing that up with sort of bottom-up attribution modeling.
You'll have to send that to me.
Yeah, I will. I could send it to all of you. It's on the WCAI SSRN feed if you want to find it right now. Let me see what question. I got distracted by my paper. Tell us more about your successes and challenges in integrating with other business functions at Chase. How do you, I used to ask, I'm good friends with the director of analytics at Anthropology, and I said, how do you connect with other parts of the business? And she said, I go to a lot of happy hours. Is that your strategy at a bank?
Always, why not? No, I guess it depends on, is it just about the analytics functions outside of my area or just totally other functions?
Other functions and getting them to be good customers of the analysis that your teams are doing.
So again, aligning to your CEO's agenda holistically is extremely important, because all of a sudden the folks who run sales, they need us. The folks who run marketing, they need us. The folks who run servicing, they need us. As I think about finance and risk, they are phenomenal partners to analysts because by definition, they're also analytical. And so they actually understand what we do, and if you spend the time to actually tell them what we're doing and partnering, we actually have a great partnership at Chase.
They're sort of like, finally, a marketer I can talk to.
Exactly. So they actually love working with us, and we love working with them because there's many different partnership opportunities. We've got a great opportunity now. I'm working with our mortgage risk team where we're going to be sharing a bunch of our data. They had no idea we had it. It's going to be really helpful for them to assess risk. And so there are lots of opportunities. They should naturally love you guys or us, and if they don't, there's something wrong.
All right, next question. Now they're getting sort of more random. What piece of customer info do you use to unify your tracking of the customer? Is it their mobile number or their email address?
So a lot of this is on us channels. So for the on us channels, we have a customer ID.
What's on us?
On us.
Oh, on us. Okay.
Sorry, jargon. I forget. It's on our channels. We're able to link because even if we have different identifiers, we can map them back typically.
Okay.
To each other.
Because they have an account or something, and that can be mapped back. What about pre-acquisition customers? You must be tracking them a little bit if you're doing attribution.
There we have to start looking to third-party providers to help us link from those customers to our customers and figuring out what that looks like.
Names or something like that.
Or bunches of things.
Yeah, lots of strategies there. Okay. How do you get senior management to prioritize and value today the customer relationship and lifetime value activities that pay off years later? Right? You have customers who you might acquire today that will continue to produce revenue for 30 years if it's a mortgage that they happen to hold for 30 years, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you, is that just part of the company that people have a long-term view of customer value?
I think people have a pretty long-term view of customer value because most of our customers do stick. So mortgages, that person will stay for a while. Same thing with our deposit businesses or investment businesses. Credit card's a little bit different, but we still focus on a lifetime value number when we look at acquisition. So we always have some sort of...
And does that include sort of cross-sell, upsell in it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because I would assume if you get someone at 25 who has a credit card, they might be adding more banking products
over time. Exactly.
Over time as their wealth increases.
Yeah, no, and a bank should be about having a relationship, so we try to look at all of those opportunities.
Let's see, when it comes to analytics, how different or similar is banking compared to other sectors? Have you worked in other sectors?
I've seen other sectors in my prior life. I don't know that it's all that different from retail. The only thing that makes it substantively harder is that if you're trying to sell a sweater, I could just suddenly up and one day decide I want my purple sweater and I will go in and buy it. No one really wakes up one morning and says, heck, I want a mortgage. Like, why? You don't do that. You can sort of do that with credit cards, but that's a bad idea. So we constantly have to, it's not just about targeting, it's about understanding underlying need for a product and eligibility before you even get to the targeting. So we've got an added layer of complexity there and just regulatory controls around even just how targeting is done.
Mm. So how long does a typical analytics project take you?
Oh, that varies. You want to be able to have a good mix in your portfolio of very long-range projects and even things that you can deliver quickly because stakeholders are impatient.
Well, I would imagine some of the stuff that the data viz team does is like a day.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that's why it's also important to have that kind of capability. You want to be able to do quick turnaround stuff while you're also building capabilities for the future.
And did Chase always care about customer analytics? Did you enter the job with this being an important area of the company, or is it something you had to build up?
I think Chase always cared about customers. I think analytics was something that we needed to continue to evolve, but there were always lots of analysts. Banks have always had lots of data for years, so we've always had analytics functions.
And how does Chase's vision for mobile wallets play into all this? And you had actually even mentioned Internet of Things, like are wearables part of Chase's strategy going forward, or can you talk about any of that?
Not going to comment.
Understand. All right, I think, should we take a break now? I think, all right. Do you have any last thoughts you want to share with us?
No. Thank you, guys.
You can talk with...
I've talked a lot.
Sandra.
Thanks.